being as God made them ought to be.
I try to be.
Now, I want to go a little bit broader because you
Mm-hmm.
have a very special life, and I really do believe that God will use your life to bless other people who need certain blessing. And
Thanks,
one,
Alex.
one, one thing I can think of is, I don't know if you're aware, there was a very famous pastor. I'm not sure what church he was part of. I think it was like Louis Giglio or
Okay.
some famous pastor. He was a big promoter of suicide awareness and
Okay.
um, mental health and things like that. And tragically, he committed suicide.
Oh wow.
And you probably understand, and I understand because I hang out with a lot of pastors of the intensity and the stress of pastoral work
Yeah.
and things like that. And do you think you could share a little bit of advice or thoughts you could give to people who struggle with mental health or
Yeah.
who are in the ministry or um, in the Christian life who feel like they shouldn't have these thoughts, who shouldn't touch on
Right.
depression? What do you say to them?
The first thing I say is God is God is bigger than. There are so many myths in the Christian world, in the Christian bubble, that it's somehow sinful to take psychiatric medication, or that it's sinful to be suicidal, or that it's um, everything has to be perfect all the time. And the first thing I would say to people is you have to meet, like, God will only meet you where you're at, not where you posture to be,
Mm-hmm.
not where you pretend to be, not where you project you are, but right where you're at. And so if you're supposed to be the shining man or woman, but even that notion, I would dispel that notion. Christianity has one hero,
Yeah.
one hero, and
Amen.
so what? So we Jesus was strong so that we the weak don't have to be, and we don't have to participate in the charade of being strong. My savior is all in all, so that I can be dependent on him.
I've never thought of the Beatitudes in that way before.
Yeah, and
That's
and
beautiful.
and so I would, to somebody who's struggling with depression or suicidality, the first thing I would say is it is good to be honest with God and honest with yourself, because it's only out of that posture that you're going to seek some help, right? I'm a huge advocate and proponent for regular counseling and psychiatric medication. Um, People uh, don't realize. Well, let's take meds for a second. Psychiatric medication isn't. You're not trying to replace God. It doesn't. It doesn't. All it does is get you out of free fall and back up onto the lip of the edge,
Hmm.
and enable you to relate to God again. Whenever you're.
Would you say it's like a painkiller, sort of? Like some people will take Vicodin to help their pain, but
Yeah.
other people are addicted to Vicodin.
Right. Right.
Same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about a heart posture. So
Hmm.
I personally worship God every time I take my psych meds, because they enable me to be the husband and the father and the son of God that I need to be,
Amen.
right? Now, if I was running to those for salvation, they'd be an idol like anything else. But I would say, be honest with God, be honest with yourself. Stop listening to what other people have to say. It's easy to preach from the throne of ignorance,
Mm.
and when you need help, you gotta get help. And if you've worked your way up to be what am I trying to say, like a figurehead in any way, pastor of a congregation,
Or a father.
father, yeah, and you're not comfortable with being weak, I would work on that. There's reliance on Jesus Christ every day and for everything
Mm.
is not weakness. It's gospel strength. And so I would encourage people to find help. I would say there's some helpful books out there. You have to look for them, but there's one called When God Weeps by Johnny Erickson Tata.
Okay.
Um, that she asks the question, "How does God view my pain?"
Hmm.
And title gives it away, but the it's that book is brought me back from the edge a couple of times.
You read through it multiple times.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
There's another book called A Place of Healing by Johnny Erickson that asks the question, why, why and how long will God allow me to suffer?
That one thing I want to talk about, and you very gently touched upon it, is there's this new trend in Christianity, and that's the experiential
Mm.
Christianity. We see it a lot with the charismatics.
Mm-hmm.
Bethel's very big on healing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any commentary on people who um, would like that kind of supernatural spiritual healing, but maybe aren't getting it,
Mm-hmm.
and have faith that it will happen?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like this? Do you think it's not good? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that God does heal and
Mm-hmm.
does do so miraculously. I think that it's probably, rather than normative, I think it's probably um, something that happens in special instances.
Yeah.
Just because I do believe, like, God, it could be God's plan to heal us miraculously, but it seems, so I wish I could chapter verse here, but there's a proverb that says, many are the paths of a man, but the Lord determines each of his steps. And it seems to me that God has authored our lives from before time to play out according to his plan, and that if he's written suffering into our lives, it is probably to produce some good in us or glory for him. And changing that on the head of a pin with a miraculous healing, that brings him glory, and that cures us. So healings happen. Yes, I've been prayed over. People have tried to heal me before. Miraculous healing hasn't happened, but if you look at my life, so I had a
It's pretty miraculous from where you've come,
right.
from what you've told me.
I had a heart transplant when I was 25.
Wow.
Yeah, and
It worked out, clearly.
yeah, here I am at 34. um, I It's a little strange having another person's heart inside your chest. Lots of things to think about and talk about there, maybe another time.
Yeah.
But when I look at that is, could God miraculously heal me? Yes. Has God providentially not allowed, but carried medicine forward to the point where you can take a dead man's heart and put it in a live man and have it beat again?
Yeah.
You know,
That's pretty crazy.
it's yeah, and so we talk about miraculous versus providential. I see God working both ways in the lives of those who suffer, especially with physical things, and I've thought the same thing though. I've wondered the same thing for deliverance from deeper or darker depression. I know that God absolutely could lift the darkness.
Mm. One thing that I don't know if it's my place to say it, so I hope you acknowledge I say this out of ignorance, but the fact that you struggle with all these things that we've discussed, but the fact that you can testify it to the audience, if you're able to bring one person away from the brink, then in a certain way, maybe, or two people, in a certain way, it's almost a blessing.
It is.
In a weird way, And I'm not trying to,
No,
shift your problems under the rug, but don't take it that
No,
way,
I
please.
there's been many a young person that has struggled with health problems or suicidality or both, that I've been able to help come back from that edge.
Praise
So
Jesus.
there's a number of Mason students. So I'm thinking of a guy named John,
Yeah.
who I love, and I wonder what he's up to right now. But he got to a place where he was ready to be done, and I remember, and John's a big, tall, strong guy, and I remember just holding him as he shook like a little kid, crying, and it was he just needed someone to, you need someone in the moment to say, hey, you gotta wake up. Suicidality is almost like a temporary insanity. There's not. I've been down into the throes of it, and you can't. Everything's confusion. Everything's whipping around, and you need someone to reach into that miasma and say, this is solid. This is real. I'm here, and my wife's done that for me. I think I did that for John. There's a couple of kids, maybe names I won't use, but that God's used me in that way. And I look at too, being a campus missionary. There are people. So last year, a young man named Max. This year, a young man named Matt.
Almost every year,
someone comes to faith and gives their life to Jesus Christ. And so I look at it, and if my life had not played out the way that it played out, I wouldn't be who I am right here today.
Wow.
I wouldn't be used by God in the ways that I'm used. But because I am, I get the great honor of being able to, usher someone into the kingdom. So it's
a pretty cool trade-off.
Yeah.
On this uplifting note,
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid that we'll have to end our wonderful conversation. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for supporting Greg by watching this. If you know anybody, I really encourage you to share this video with those who need it most. You probably know who I'm talking about. Greg, thank you so much for this. This was really, really wonderful for me and
My pleasure.
everyone involved.
My
God bless
pleasure.
you.
Thanks.